On the evening of October 23, 2019, as the day's activities were getting closed, a vibrant, kind-hearted, and promising 19-year-old college student named Aniah Haley Blanchard vanished without a trace in Auburn, Alabama. At the time, Annayia was attending Southern Union State Community College and working toward a degree in early childhood education. She was known among her friends and family for her contagious energy, athletic spirit, and loving personality. As the stepdaughter of UFC heavyweight fighter Walt Harris, Annayia had become a familiar face to many in her community and beyond, not only because of her family's public presence but because of her own light and ambition. Her sudden disappearance sparked immediate concern. This wasn't just a case of someone skipping class or forgetting to check in with loved ones. Her actions on that night were completely out of character. Text messages and Snapchats sent to her roommate indicated she was on her way home. But after that, all communication from Annayia stopped. Within hours, her family and friends sensed something was wrong. The alarm was raised, and what began as a missing person report quickly turned into one of the most tragic and high-profile criminal cases in Alabama's recent history. What unfolded over the following weeks shook the nation. It involved chilling surveillance footage, an abandoned car with signs of foul play, a suspect with a violent criminal past, and eventually, the heartbreaking discovery of Annayya's remains in a wooded area more than 50 miles from where she was last seen. The man responsible for her abduction and murder, Ibrahim Yazid, was not a stranger to the criminal justice system. In fact, he was out on bond for other serious crimes when he encountered Annayia. This case not only tore through the hearts of Annayya's loved ones but also ignited a fierce public outcry for justice and reform. It ultimately led to legislative change in Alabama in the form of Annayya's Law, which now gives judges the authority to deny bail to violent offenders considered a threat to the public. Before we continue, I want you to take a moment to support LAT True Crime Stories. Like and share this video. Subscribe so you never miss thrilling cases like this. The story of Aniah Blanchard is one of innocence lost to violence, but also one of resilience, of a family turning unimaginable grief into action, and a community coming together to demand a safer system. This video will walk through the events leading to her tragic death, the investigation that followed, and the broader implications that continue to impact Alabama and the nation to this day. Through her story, we aim not only to remember Annayia but also to educate and encourage vigilance and reform. The tragic sequence of events surrounding Aniah Blanchard's disappearance began on the night of October 23, 2019, in Auburn, Alabama. It was a typical evening. Annayia had been in communication with her roommate via text and Snapchat, casually mentioning she was on her way home after running some errands. Her last known message was sent around 11:30 p.m., suggesting that she would be back soon. But Annayia never made it home. The first major clue came from surveillance footage obtained from a Chevron gas station on South College Street in Auburn. The footage showed Annayia inside the convenience store, browsing casually. In the same video, a tall man, later identified as Ibrahim Yazid, was seen loitering near her and following her out of the store. This image would soon become central to the investigation. Hours after the footage was captured, Annayya's black Honda CR-V was reported missing along with her. When her car was eventually found days later in Montgomery, Alabama, more than 50 miles away, it raised immediate alarm. The vehicle showed clear signs of a struggle. Blood evidence was discovered inside, later confirmed to be Annayya's through forensic testing. Authorities quickly escalated the missing person case into an abduction investigation, and by November 7, 2019, they had issued a warrant for the arrest of Ibrahim Yazid, who was already a suspect due to his disturbing criminal history. When captured in Florida several days later, Yazid was charged with kidnapping in the first degree. At that point, hope still lingered that Annayia might be found alive. That hope was tragically shattered on November 25, 2019, when human remains were discovered in a wooded area in Macon County. Just 2 days later, forensic analysis confirmed what everyone feared: the remains belonged to Aniah Blanchard. The autopsy revealed that she had died from a gunshot wound, and the manner of death was officially ruled a homicide. The story of Annayya's disappearance went from a heartbreaking mystery to a devastating confirmation. It triggered outrage across Alabama and beyond, not only because of the senseless nature of the crime, but because it could have been prevented. The man responsible for her death had a lengthy record and was out on bond for other violent charges when he encountered Aniah. The timeline of Anayah's disappearance, while short in days, carried a lifetime's worth of grief and reflection for her family, her community, and the public. It served as a chilling reminder of how quickly lives can be taken and how urgently systemic change is needed to prevent repeat offenders from walking free. Ibrahim Yazid, the man later charged with the abduction and murder of Aniah Blanchard, was no stranger to law enforcement. By the time he encountered Annayia in October 2019, he had already built a lengthy and violent criminal record, one that painted a troubling picture of systemic failures in handling repeat offenders. Born and raised in Alabama, Yazid's early life remains largely undocumented in public records, but his criminal history spans several years and involves multiple arrests and serious charges. These include kidnapping, attempted murder, robbery, and aggravated assault. At the time of Annayah's disappearance, Yazid was out on bond from a 2019 Montgomery case in which he was accused of beating and robbing an elderly man, leaving the victim severely injured. This detail became a point of intense scrutiny and outrage following Annayah's murder. Many questioned how someone with such a violent background could be released on bond and allowed to roam freely. Critics pointed fingers at the bail system, arguing that it had failed Annayia and countless other potential victims by not adequately assessing the danger posed by high-risk individuals like Yazid. In person, Yazid stood out. He was over 6 feet tall, with a physically imposing presence, something clearly evident in the surveillance footage from the Chevron station where he encountered Annayia. But more disturbing than his appearance was the pattern of escalating violence in his past. Former court documents and witness testimonies painted him as a man prone to explosive rage and unprovoked aggression. Despite this, Yazid had repeatedly slipped through the cracks of the legal system. Each time he was arrested, the justice process seemed to fall short of preventing his return to the streets. His ability to post bond despite the severity of his charges became symbolic of a much larger problem, one in which the rights of the accused can overshadow the safety of the public.
It's been a solemn week for communities in central Alabama as families reflect on 2 deadly kidnappings 5 years later. Thanks for joining us tonight at 10. I'm Sherry Falk. Guy has the night off. In 2019, authorities found the body of 3-year-old Camille Cupcake McKinney in a Birmingham landfill. This was 10 days after she was taken from a front yard outside of Tom Brown Village. Just 1 day later, 19-year-old Aniah Blanchard was kidnapped at an Auburn gas station. Her mother, Angela Harris, says she once spoke with Aniah about Camille's death.
And I saw that she was found, and I fell on the floor crying like she was my own child. And I called Aniah immediately. She was so devastated. And then the very next day, it happened to her.
32 days later, Aniah's body was finally found. WVTM 13's Gladys Bautista joins us live in Homewood tonight after attending a vigil for her on this somber anniversary. Gladys, her mother says that she is still seeking justice.
Yes, and that was something that came up here as more than a dozen people gathered in Homewood for this emotional vigil.
Hugs and tears Wednesday at Homewood Central Park as Aniah Blanchard's mother, Angela Harris.
We miss you and we love you, Aniah.
Her family and friends gathered to remember her.
Aniah was so loved by so many people. The people that were her best friends, the people in the community, but also people that didn't even know her.
5 years to the day she was kidnapped.
It just feels like it's been 5 minutes since she was here. It's gone by so fast. I can't believe it's been 5 years at all.
This day back in 2019 was the start of a 32-day search that ended when Aniah's body was found. Through the devastation, Harris has kept her daughter's name alive through the nonprofit Aniah's Heart and getting Aniah's Law passed. The law allows judges to deny bond to violent criminals, and now Harris has even bigger plans for its impact.
I want Aniah's Law to be a national law, and that's something that I'm trying to work on with some people right now. I think it should be at every state.
But beyond the action of keeping Aniah's name alive in the form of safety education and legislation, grief still bears heavy on this group. 6 others who lost their lives in the month of October were also honored, including Camille Cupcake McKinney and Harris's baby boy Darian, who died 28 years ago after a violent car crash. This is the first vigil Aniah and Darian's father, Elijah Blanchard, has been able to bring himself to since losing his daughter.
And just seeing all the love that's drawn in, it just brings joy to my heart.
Now, the next step Harris is looking forward to is going to court to see her daughter's alleged killer, Ibrahim Yazid, stand trial.
Me and my family, we're ready, and so we just want it to happen so we can finally get that justice for her.
And Harris says justice to her is seeing a jury find Yazid guilty and sentencing him to death.
He killed my beautiful daughter, and he was a repeat violent offender, and that's what he deserves.
In 2022, Ibrahim Yazid was indicted in the kidnapping and murder of Aniah Blanchard. His trial was originally set for next February, but it's been pushed to next spring. No exact date has been set, but prosecutors are seeking the death penalty. Live in Homewood for you tonight, I'm Gladys Bautista, WVTM 13.
Anayah's case, therefore, became not just about a single horrifying crime, but a case study in how systemic loopholes can lead to irreversible tragedies. Yazid's background, actions, and ultimate role in her death forced both the public and lawmakers to take a hard look at the consequences of a flawed judicial system, one that had, knowingly or unknowingly, paved the way for a predator to strike again. On the night of October 23, 2019, 19-year-old Annayia Haley Blanchard, a Southern Union State Community College student, vanished in what would later be confirmed as a horrifying act of violence. A bright, kind-hearted young woman with dreams of becoming a teacher, Annayia had made a quick trip to a Chevron gas station in Auburn, Alabama, unaware that her life was about to be taken by a violent stranger. Surveillance footage from the gas station captured the final moments she was seen alive. The video showed Ibrahim Yazid lurking inside the store at the same time as Annayia. Dressed in dark clothing, Yazid could be seen watching her before eventually leaving the store, only to wait for her outside. What happened next is believed to be a sudden and brutal abduction. Investigators later determined that Yazid forced Annayia into her vehicle, a black Honda CR-V, in the parking lot and drove away. No one at the gas station witnessed the kidnapping, and there were no signs of struggle at the scene, making her sudden disappearance all the more chilling. Anayya's family quickly realized something was wrong when she stopped responding to texts and calls. She was officially reported missing the next day. Her car was later found abandoned in Montgomery, approximately 50 miles away, with bloodstains on the passenger side. Forensic tests would confirm the blood belonged to Annayia and indicated a life-threatening injury had occurred. The search for Annayia lasted over a month, gaining national media attention and mobilizing communities across Alabama. Tragically, on November 25, 2019, her remains were discovered in a wooded area in Macon County, Alabama. The condition of her body revealed she had suffered a gunshot wound, and her death was ruled a homicide. As law enforcement pieced together the timeline, it became clear that this was not a random incident, but a deliberate act carried out by a man with a history of violence. Cell phone records, witness statements, and Yazid's presence in the same location as Annayia all pointed to his involvement. The brutal nature of the crime, the abduction, possible assault, and murder, sent shockwaves through the community. Annayya's family was left devastated, and the public outraged, especially upon learning that Yazid had been free on bond during the time of the attack.
If you have any leads on where our daughter is, Annayia Blanchard, please go to the authorities. Tell someone she was last seen in a black Honda CR-V 2017. Tag is 49 B2356 BS 356. I'm sorry. She was possibly last seen downtown at Southeastern, downtown Auburn, Southeastern, and Sky Bar. If you have any information, please come forward.
And she was just so funny and so sweet and so caring. She was just the best. And I don't know, she was our best friend. Even though she's our daughter, she was our best friend. She was just the life of our family, to be honest with you.
Many felt that Annayya's death was not just a personal tragedy, but a consequence of systemic failure. The investigation into Aniah Blanchard's disappearance was both urgent and expansive, fueled by the deep concern of her family, the Auburn community, and eventually, the nation. As the days passed with no sign of the 19-year-old, law enforcement agencies, including the Auburn Police Division, the Alabama Law Enforcement Agency, and the FBI, joined forces to solve the case. Key evidence in the early days came from surveillance footage at the Chevron gas station, where Annayia was last seen. After carefully reviewing the footage, investigators noticed a tall, imposing man, later identified as Ibrahim Yazid, watching Annayia closely inside the store and then waiting outside as she left. This chilling behavior made Yazid an immediate person of interest. Further breakthroughs came when Annayya's black Honda CR-V was located in a Montgomery apartment complex parking lot on October 25, 2 days after she vanished. The vehicle was severely damaged, and investigators found significant blood evidence inside. Forensics later confirmed that the blood matched Annayya's DNA and suggested she had suffered a life-threatening injury. A witness came forward with critical information, stating they had seen Yazid forcefully pushing a woman into a vehicle matching the description of Annayya's SUV. This account, combined with forensic evidence and Yazid's prior history of violent crimes, led to a warrant for his arrest. Yazid was already well known to law enforcement. At the time of Annayya's disappearance, he was out on bond for attempted murder, kidnapping, robbery, and assault charges stemming from a previous case. His freedom despite this history raised serious questions about the justice system's handling of repeat violent offenders. On November 7, 2019, a manhunt for Yazid came to an end when he was captured in Escambia County, Florida, near the Alabama border. Authorities apprehended him after he tried to flee on foot. He was extradited back to Alabama to face charges of kidnapping and, later, capital murder once Annayya's remains were found. The arrest brought some closure, but not peace, to Annayya's family. They had feared the worst but held out hope for her safe return. With Yazid behind bars, attention turned to the justice system's failures, how someone with a violent record was allowed back on the streets, and how those decisions ultimately led to a young woman's death. The investigation was praised for its swift coordination and the strong public support that helped bring attention to the case. But it also became a turning point in discussions about bail reform, public safety, and the protection of vulnerable individuals, especially young women. Following Ibrahim Yazid's arrest in early November 2019, the legal proceedings surrounding Aniah Blanchard's tragic case unfolded with intense public interest and scrutiny. Prosecutors wasted no time in pursuing justice, initially charging Yazid with first-degree kidnapping. However, as the investigation developed and more evidence came to light, the charges were escalated. The turning point in the case came on November 25, 2019, when authorities discovered human remains in a wooded area in Macon County, Alabama. 2 days later, the remains were positively identified as those. Throughout the legal proceedings, Annayya's family remained at the forefront, attending hearings, speaking to the media, and demanding justice not just for their daughter, but for other potential victims of violent crime.
New information tonight in news we've been following out of Auburn. Detectives now say foul play is being considered as a possibility in the case of missing 19-year-old Aniah Blanchard from Homewood. Blanchard is a Southern Union State Community College student that's right in the Auburn area. She was first reported missing October 24th. Last night, her car, a black Honda CR-V, was recovered at an apartment complex off of Atlanta Highway in Montgomery. Auburn Police and Montgomery Police worked to process the vehicle at the scene. If you have any information about Blanchard's whereabouts, you're urged to call the Auburn Police Department.
Her mother and stepfather advocated for stronger laws to protect people from known violent offenders who are out on bond. Their efforts led to the proposal and eventual passage of Annayya's Law. Yazid, meanwhile, has maintained a plea of not guilty, and as of the latest updates, he remains in custody awaiting trial. The case is ongoing with delays caused by legal procedures and the pandemic, but the public continues to monitor it closely, hoping that justice will be fully served. The heartbreaking loss of Annayia Haley Blanchard sent ripples far beyond her hometown of Homewood, Alabama. Her tragic death became more than just a devastating crime. it ignited a powerful movement that sought to transform the very laws meant to protect innocent lives. Annayya's family, especially her mother Angela Harris, became vocal advocates for change. Their pain was not only personal, it was a call to action. They learned that Ibrahim Yazid, the man accused of abducting and murdering Aniah, had been out on bond for previous violent charges at the time of the crime. This detail outraged many and highlighted a flaw in the bail system. Individuals with a history of serious violence could still walk free while awaiting trial. Self-defense begins long before physical confrontation becomes necessary. The first strategy is avoidance, changing your route, returning to a populated area, or seeking help if you sense danger. If confrontation becomes unavoidable, experts recommend creating distance and using your voice, shouting specific commands like, "Stay back," rather than screaming. Physical self-defense techniques focus on creating opportunities to escape rather than winning a fight. Target vulnerable areas like eyes, throat, and groin with maximum force, then flee immediately. Carrying legal personal safety tools like pepper spray can provide an advantage, but only if readily accessible and you're trained in their use. The Blanchard family now advocates for self-defense training as essential education, particularly for young women. Through Annayya's Heart, they sponsor classes teaching practical techniques that don't require exceptional strength or athletic ability. These courses emphasize that fighting back significantly increases survival chances in abduction attempts. Statistics show that resistance within the first few seconds is critical. Recognizing warning signs might have saved Annayya's life. Predatory behavior often follows identifiable patterns that we can learn to spot. Red flags include someone watching you too intently, appearing in multiple locations you visit, asking overly personal questions, or invading your personal space. Particularly concerning is when someone tries to isolate you or separate you from friends. In Annayya's case, surveillance footage showed Yazid watching her in the store before following her outside. Other warning signs include someone trying to create false trust or obligation, offering unwanted help, or creating scenarios to test boundaries. Predators often employ grooming behaviors to assess how easily someone might be manipulated. They frequently use alcohol or drugs to compromise potential victims' judgment and physical capabilities. Understanding these tactics allows potential victims to recognize danger before it escalates to violence. The Blanchard family emphasizes that recognizing these patterns isn't about paranoia but about informed caution. For comprehensive safety resources, visit annayyasheart.org for free training videos, safety checklists, and local self-defense class information. The RAIN hotline, 800-656-HOPE, provides 24/7 support for assault victims, while the SafeTrek app connects users to emergency services with one button press. From the depths of unimaginable grief, Angela Haley Harris established Annayya's Heart Foundation in 2020, creating a living legacy for her daughter. The foundation's mission centers on three core pillars: education, prevention, and support. Through free workshops and online resources, Annayya's Heart teaches situational awareness and practical self-defense techniques to vulnerable populations, particularly young women and college students. The foundation visits campuses across Alabama and neighboring states, conducting hands-on training sessions that have reached thousands of participants. Beyond physical safety, the organization provides resources for families of missing persons, offering guidance on working with law enforcement, organizing community searches, and navigating the overwhelming emotional terrain of such crises. Angela often says the foundation's name reflects both her daughter's compassionate nature and their commitment to protecting the hearts of other families from similar tragedy. The organization operates entirely on donations and volunteer support, with every dollar going directly to programming rather than administrative costs. The impact of Annayya's Heart extends far beyond statistics, though those are impressive: over 15,000 individuals trained, 35 campuses visited, and countless online resources accessed. The true measure of success comes through individual stories. In 2022, a college sophomore in Georgia credited her Annayya's Heart training with helping her escape an attempted abduction in a parking garage. She recognized the warning signs, employed the defensive techniques she had learned, and successfully fled to safety. The foundation has also assisted in organizing search efforts for missing persons, including the 2023 case of a missing teenager in Montgomery who was located alive within 48 hours thanks to the coordinated volunteer response. Perhaps most powerful are the testimonials from families who have found solace and purpose through the foundation's support groups. One mother whose daughter was recovered safely wrote that, "Anayah's heart gave us hope when we had none, and practical guidance when we felt lost." Through these tangible impacts, Anayah's spirit continues to protect and nurture others, a fitting tribute to a young woman who always put others first. In response, Anayah's family worked closely with Alabama lawmakers to push forward what became known as Anayah's Law. This legislation aimed to expand the list of offenses for which a judge can deny bail, particularly in cases involving violent crimes. Under the law, judges would have more authority to keep individuals accused of crimes such as kidnapping, rape, or murder in jail without bond if they posed a danger to the public. Anayah's Law received bipartisan support and was overwhelmingly passed by the Alabama legislature. In November 2022, it was put before voters and approved by a majority statewide. The law represented not only legal reform but also a tribute to Anayah's memory, a promise that her story would lead to tangible protections for others. The public impact of Anayah's case also reached into the realms of college safety, women's rights, and criminal justice reform. Conversations about rideshare safety, late-night travel, and how communities can protect vulnerable individuals became more prominent. Social media, which had played a key role in spreading awareness during the search for Annayia, became a space for national mourning and mobilization. Annayya's legacy continues to inspire. She was a bright, ambitious student, a former softball player, and a young woman with a promising future.
I got a right too.
Well, the capital murder charge that is involved with a death occurring during a kidnapping, the probable cause for that has been amended to state what is on the warrant. Each of them satisfy probable cause to charge you with the crime. The second capital murder charge involves the shooting with a firearm inside a vehicle, and that itself can constitute capital murder, as I'm sure your lawyer has told you.
But they don't have no video, no audio of me shooting anyone. That's what I'm trying to see, how y'all gonna bind me over on hearsay, but y'all ain't presenting no evidence. And then now there's a whole different statement. There's a whole different convenience store you saying. So why the kidnapping and all that did not get dismissed?
I'm not a law enforcement officer, and I'm not going to argue their case for you. What's on the probable cause warrant does satisfy the issuance of the warrant, and I have done that. And these conversations would be better had with your lawyer outside the presence of a courtroom.
Her story is a stark reminder of how quickly life can be stolen, and how important it is to close the gaps in our justice system before another family endures the same grief. Her name now stands not only for loss but for legislative progress, for community strength, and for a family's unrelenting fight for justice. Annayya's Law ensures that her light continues to shine, not just in memory, but in action. If you've been moved by this story, please hit the like button and subscribe to LAT True Crime Stories. Your engagement helps us reach more people with these crucial safety lessons. Share this video with someone you care about, especially young women in your life who might benefit from these awareness strategies. Comment below with your thoughts or questions about personal safety. The pursuit of justice for Annayia continues as her case moves toward trial, but true justice extends beyond courtrooms. It lives in the lives saved through prevention, in communities made safer through awareness, and in each of us who refuses to look away from difficult truths that might protect others.